My name's Matt McCutcheon. The person I chose was my father.
Hello.
Um, so the question I have for you is, have you ever had to intervene in a situation that you knew would get out of control if you did not?
Yes, I did. It was many years ago. I think everybody has had a situation where they wanted to intervene in a argument or
Yeah.
a discussion. So yes, there was an argument. It became on the verge of a physical confrontation. Started out as a verbal argument, and both sides that were involved thought they were both right, and they presented an argument which neither one agreed with. Therefore, the parties that were involved got very angry with each other, started screaming, and almost on a verge of a physical confrontation before I stepped in.
All right. So questions I have for you is, do you regret what you may have said or done in this situation?
No, I think I prevented a physical altercation where somebody might have got hurt or um, in trouble, with the law if somebody decided to call the authorities and today's society, people need to get involved in these situations to prevent physical confrontations, or even worse now, it seems that you hear a lot about physical violence and turning into, um, you know, more violent
Hmm.
methods of solving problems. So I don't regret what I did. I think the only regret I had is if I should have stepped in a little bit sooner, which I think prevented a physical altercation.
So yeah, that was pretty interesting. What are some valuable lessons that you took away from this situation?
I think even this was many years ago. This was probably 10 or 12 years ago at this point. But when something happens and you are a witness to it and you think that either a person involved is in trouble or in need of help, we need to, as a society, step in and help that person that we possibly can, whether it be a relative or anybody that um, you have a daily interaction with, or even a perfect stranger. Sometimes we need to help strangers and they are not strong enough to help themselves, and we need to help them out in any situation we can, and don't be afraid to get involved.
All right. So another question I have was, did you know these two people, or were they complete strangers? What, like, was it someone you cared about, or like you grew up with, or was it just two complete random people?
They were two people I knew. One was a relative of mine, the other one was a person I knew for many years prior to that argument. Um, the the ironic situation of these two people is they had a friendship relationship for many years, where they would laugh and joke and even go out to eat at meals sometimes. So it was a very surprising argument when it happened. I think both people involved thought they were right. The person I was related to was a very strong willed individual who always thought he was right in certain situations. And the person that um, was on the other side of the argument also had a very strong personality and thought he was always right in certain situations. So overall, I was glad I stepped in, and I think I did stop a physical confrontation from happening, if not worse.
Yeah. Um, so another question I have for you is, when you at first like heard these arguments, did you at first think they were joking around, or like, did they do this all the time and they really didn't like joke around? Like, always thought knew they were right, or like anything?
I at first when it did happen, I think everybody that was there thought it was a joke, and then after a certain amount of time, everyone realized, and myself included, that it wasn't a joke and it was getting out of control. So the two people that were involved did have a previous relationship, and I think that's what threw everybody, for a loop, and including myself, thinking, hey, they're just joking around, playing around, but in reality, it was a verbal altercation that was escalating to become on the verge of a physical altercation, which I wanted to prevent.
Yeah. Do you like remember what they were arguing about? Like, was it about like sports? Anything like you could tell, or politics?
No, it was. It was. I'm not exactly sure what it was about. I think overall it was about business, probably money,
Hmm.
in a little situation about that. But I think overall, I think they both, like I said, thought they were right. One person may have thought their amount of money was correct, whereas the other person thought they were right. So it transpired into a an argument that neither one was going to back down from. And by myself stepping in, I was able to calm both parties down, separate them, diffuse the situation, and then we figured out exactly what the truth was to both sides of the argument.
Yeah, so I got one more question for you. Did you like which side would you say you were more on? Like the one you cared about or like your really good friend? Like could you say which where were you like person in the middle? Like did you have your own thoughts about it or like
Yeah, I think at first I was very surprised that it was going on. Obviously, I sided with my relative because I would always protect anybody I was related to in any situation, regardless of what was going on. But I think both sides in the argument presented a valid point. But in the end, I believe that, being a relative of the person that was involved, I would always side with them. Um, both sides I listened to after the fact, and we did come to a mutual agreement between all the parties. The ironic part about it was after this argument, I think a few days later, everybody sat down and was able to resolve the relationship
yeah.
where we could go out to dinner and they were able to talk. And it was a spur of the moment argument. I think both parties, after it happened, regretted that it happened. Um, I think they both felt a little embarrassed about the situation. I don't regret getting involved because, like I said, I think it's our um, part as society is to help other people and don't sit back and let think other people are going to help. Um,
Yeah.
be on the side of let's do the right thing and help out people where they're needed.
All right. Thank you for answering my questions, Dad.
You're quite welcome, Matthew.